Chelsea are traveling east to the London Stadium to face West Ham away after a rough first game for both teams, actually. Welcome back to FFB, amigos. And today we're going to get straight into it. This match preview amongst these two players that had a rough first match. We sucked against Palace. Chelsea sucked against Palace. Sucked, in my opinion. Why is it particularly painful the way this game played out? Go back and watch my video, please, to get the match reaction and my sadness live and fresh. However, the sad part, the long story short there, is that we fell into the patterns of play that we had at the slump of last season, playing side to side, not be able to put it back in the back of the net, not even having enough shots on target. We didn't make that goalkeeper work very much, to be honest. And that's very depressing. When they stamp out our creative players, Enzo wasn't there, João Pedro wasn't found, and certainly Cole Palmer just taken out of the match. Low block, line of 5, nothing we can do. So that was really tough for us to deal with. On top of which, we fell into this slow play again to the side. What's frustrating is that we're doing with new players and new, supposedly now having 1 or 2 new strikers, half striker, if you want to call Pedro that, which he's been proven to us to be certainly a goal scorer and be able to play as a 9. And we also had the lap and all these exciting things. Let's not get too long into it, but we are very frustrated because of it. West Ham lost their opener as well. West Ham lost 3-0. And you say, yeah, but West Ham sucks. Yeah, but they lost to Sunderland 3-0. Recently promoted Sunderland 3-0. And the pressure's on for Graham Potter, which thanks Graham Potter for putting Chelsea back a couple of steps. Again, it's not their fault. People choose these players. I want to make a special video because there's a lot of things that as Chelsea fans you're forgetting that we've been through with his leadership, because we had a good summer. I just thought we would start winning this season, obviously, because we had Crystal Palace and then we had West Ham, and I was thinking where we have 6 points and I can comfortably make a video about all the, I don't want to call it negative stuff, but some of the criticisms that I think still stand to the ownership and what the model and where we're at right now. I was just hoping we were having good results to say it instead of to come across as somebody that as soon as we have a bad result makes a negative video. So hopefully we win this one and then I'll talk about it. But they lost. Graham Potter was Lopetegui was fired from West Ham because they were 14th, and Graham Potter came in January and ended the season in 14th, so he wasn't able to do much about it. He's under pressure, so there's no reasons. In that match, I saw the highlights. Obviously, I wasn't able to watch the match. But it was interesting to see that this is how we're going to segue into Chelsea, is that the out of the 2 out of the 3 goals came from early crosses. One on the left-hand side, one on the right-hand side, one a little bit further in front of the other one, but certainly both of them early crosses. Not early in terms of speed, but way behind, far from the box, to be honest. And they failed to press correctly in the midfield. Interesting, because West Ham was in a low block in both those goals, but we're not pressing enough well, obviously, because the goal came, they weren't pressing in the middle enough. That second pass after crossing midfield and allowing to put in those 2 crosses, which were defended really poorly in the box, and the goalkeeper didn't do himself any favors either. But they were too easy to whip in and too easy to finish. The third one was a shot from outside the box that I think it was a good shot, but the goalkeeper wasn't as strong as it could have been. So it could have been. So one would say, okay, let's watch that and let's do the same thing. Let's whip in some balls. Let's whip it good. But let me tell you something. In the last couple of years, when we be whipping some balls inside the box, who have we found? I'm going to tell you, 2 shorties. We had Cucurella, as you guys say, Cucurella, as I call him, and which is insane, right? At one point, he was like our greatest goal scorer for a few months there, and he was the best one at closing that down. And then Enzo a couple of times. Now, Enzo is in coming late into the box, we'd find him in space. So that's not the kind of cross that we're talking about. But we would find Cucurella with an early cross a couple of times. Now we have Delap and we have João Pedro. So that's the whole question. Now we're going to enter the João Pedro versus Delap question. So many people thought that Delap should have played the last game or certainly come on sooner, which we're going to get into not doing early changes later. So that's the first question for you guys out there in the comments, because that's going to be a discussion. Who should start this match? I'll make the case for both. With João Pedro, to me, this is how I see him. João Pedro is the tricky guy because he's kind of a false 9 and can play a bit of 10, and he does a little bit of the flicks and this thing going on. So that's the case to play him on. He's the trickier of the two, but he struggled against the low block last week and didn't do much for us, even though he had a great summer at the first official Premier League game. And then Delap is the rough and tumble guy, right? He'll bully around defenders, he'll fight, and he'll do a lot of runs. And maybe against the low block, because West Ham, let me tell you right now, West Ham is going to bring some aggression. They're going to bring a lot of aggression because they don't have that much in the locker. So it's aggression and do what you know how to do, and what everybody knows. The blueprint to beat Chelsea that has been laid out certainly reminded us all from Crystal Palace, which is to counter wide. Absolutely. Certainly if we're investing in inverting our right backs and at one point leaving Caicedo all alone because you won't have much of an option. I just don't like that we do that and form that line of 5 or 6 in the front that is static and they pass the ball left and back. But okay, back to the two number 9s. Please tell me in the comments who you think you should start. I think there's a case to be made for either one. I would give a chance to Delap because João Pedro had a chance last game. And I think Maresca is likely to do that because he rotates players a lot. We know that. Not, of course, he doesn't rotate Cucurella, Caicedo, and Palmer, but and somehow in that category is in Robert Sanchez too. But yeah, I don't think we're gonna. It's likely that he is willing to play around with that a little bit. I am going to go with. I prefer to see Delap start just because I mentioned he deserves a shot to get, and I think he's going to push people around and move some bodies around physically to create some space, and that might be needed in this game. Then we have the approach of, okay, so how are we going to whip those balls in, or how are we going to get to our striker, to our number 9, when they boxed out, a low block was boxed out earlier. And I think every Chelsea fan actually wanted to see the change that I'm going to say right now, which is, I'm sorry, Pedro Neto, that hurts for you, because you're going to have to move on to the left-hand side so we can play Estevão Willian on the right-hand side. Estevão on the right, Palmer in the 10, you on the left. I hate talking about it as a 4-2-3-1. You guys know that already about Chelsea, but that's how we describe it, although we certainly in the game against West Ham, we're not going to be lined up in that shape. I wish we would, and then a couple of people will drop deep to create space, but we end up with that famous 5-line, 6-line that I only remember clearly from Pep Guardiola in the past. I think that's inherited from that. But I think that's what we have to see. William, why? Because I think he's going to be a little bit more aggressive in taking on players. Now, the question, that quickly shifts us into another question, right? Because what's happening on the right hand up front means you got to take into account what's happening on the right side on a little bit from behind. So that's a James or Malagusto. James is the better player. He's the player they want to play absolutely and always. But when he's being asked to play, he inverts and he doesn't bomb and doesn't do the overlaps. He's not called to do it. He's very conservative with that now in his new game, the way he plays. So he's not going to be dragging anybody away and creating that space for Estevão, who in turn could do that for Palmer, right? But there's obviously risks inherent to playing Malagusto versus Reece James. And you lose the early crosses we were talking about earlier, guys. Reece James is probably the best, if not one of the best. He's one of the best for certain. I don't know if the best at whipping in an early cross. So he'll find those. And when you're in that low block and you're struggling, whatever, sometimes you need them. You won't be able to play your way through or dribble your way through if you're Estevão William. So I think that's what we're going to try both in the game, to be honest, because we're highly rotational. Let's see what Graham Potter decides to do, if he decides to widen the team or not. And I think in this kind of game, widening is a risk worth taking. I don't know if we're ready to risk James being the person that does that anymore. I wish we did, because he's amazing, but I don't want to get him hurt. So that's a tricky one too. Let me know what you guys think about that. That brings us to Gittens. Obviously, to me, you're gone. And Pedro Neto, I'm sorry, you're going to have to play on the left because you're capable, you're amazing, and I want you to play there. And Gittens is not there yet. And we need this result. I don't want to play around. It doesn't call for rotation yet unless you're very tired. And guys, a lot of these things, I trust Maresca to make a judgment on these physical things in the medical team. Judgment on some of these players that to get them rotated. I don't mention many of the other things because in the back we're kind of stuck. Robert Sanchez is unplayable, and we know Caicedo is going to play for sure. So I think that leaves us where we're at. If we're going to do this, we have to maul. Okay, so if we're going to play Maresca ball as normal, there has to be a huge difference. And this is not necessarily his fault because I think he's okay with a lot of the side to side, but I don't think to this level, which is moving the ball faster. Now, from the back, when Caicedo, which recovers, I'm saying, a good percentage of the balls, recovers, he does play the ball really fast. So that first ball, recover, move. Now we're talking about the next two. I was excited in the past about a couple of games. The first two games, I saw João Pedro do something amazing. Of course, not against Premier League center backs, but when they quickly found him, instead of him holding up the play and playing somebody in the back, he attempted a couple of flicks a couple of times. So really aggressively breaking that second line. I'd like to see that more today. I really hope. This conversation inevitably about Estevao and the wings and Gittens brings us to some news that I'm just going to drop in there because this is going to be a preview / weekly update. We're looking at Xavi Simons in the created 10 position, which, look, to me, he's just another guy that was going to be the next Messi. You know how we're so quick. People are so quick to blow people's up. And that's the problem with a lot of young players we have too. It's going to be the next Messi. And then they end up just being a decent dude at RB Leipzig. If he turns into an amazing player, that would be great. I think he's welcome to Chelsea. I don't think we particularly need him. If you want to play with 2 10s, you can play Estevao Willian and Cole Palmer in double 10s and play somebody else on the right. You have all these options, but fine. Okay. I'm not crazy about that, but I'm not upset about it. I think it's all about price and timing. I'm not a fan about bringing Garnacho, but yeah, Gittens only on the left. I think he's still green. He doesn't have an end game, but that last touch right now hasn't shown it, but neither does Garnacho. And Garnacho has not shown anything that players all the way back to Hudson-Odoi or, that we've had in those come through on our wingers show or Madueke had, which is like, I don't see the upgrade there. But I think, as everybody knows, Chelsea, look, we're all about that business. I'm about that business. And I think that that's exactly what this is about. It's an opportunity. He's unsatisfied. He's pissed. The season already started. They don't want him to play. They can get him for an affordable price. If he wears the Chelsea shirt for, I don't know, 10 matches, 15 matches, we might be able to flip a profit. And if he works out and comes good, then we have a player in our hands. So, interesting. And so, look, at the end of the day, I hate saying like it's a must win. It's not a must win because we're early in the season in terms of points, but I think it's important. Let's say it's an important opportunity to win and make up for dropping those points. I don't know if I mentioned this early in the game. Palace were a very tough, very, very, very tough game because they know how to defend. They're probably one of the best at the low block, and they have very physical and strong players. And let's not forget that they come from, playing good. I don't want to hear this that Chelsea, they're kind of tired or whatever. No. We were actually match sharp when we destroyed PSG, but against Palace, we're dead. I know there was a vacation in between, but come on. And something to be said about Palace is that they beat Man City to win the FA Cup not too long, very recently, that they just snapped the Community Shield out of Liverpool's hands. Of course, they tied and went to penalties, but look, that's ballsy, that's strong. I believe they beat Spurs towards the end of the season. Away to Spurs, they won. They tied with Arsenal and Liverpool at Anfield and the Emirates towards the end of the season. So they were a really tough match. This is a poor man's version of that low block that we're going to see now. And if we don't discover this, we're not getting anywhere. I'll tell you this. If we fall into that slump that we did last year, top 4 is at risk. And it's sort of silly to say that at the second game, but yeah, because we can put on a title challenge because we have the skilled players in there. What I don't think we have is the way people doubt us is we don't have the experience, and they tie experience to this kind of thing, right? To win those difficult, a little bit more rainy day at Stoke, as they say, kind of a game, or have those dirty 1-0s. The way Arsenal just beat Man United, they weren't at their best. They got the business done, an important match, both morally, mentally, for the table, getting off in the season. And we struggled, ironically, amigos. Last season, we started struggling when everybody was saying, oh my God, we're in the title race. And why were they saying that? Not because of the amazing way we were playing, which we were, but mostly was because we were doing well and we were going to hit a patch of 6 games maybe that were winnable. And we just stunk the place up then. So those winnable matches are the ones like this one that we certainly have to get those points. And let's see if we got the stuff to make it happen. In any case, I believe we win here. We build belief. We move forward. We're back in it. Morale's back. We're back to the world champion vibes. So come on, Chelsea, please. I believe in you. And to everybody else, I will be seeing you in the next one. Thank you for watching.